your notes out, please. So we'll go through like just a couple new things here, but I know they're on the con also. So I think that what I'm going through will help you on the con. And then I'll give you the rest of the time, like I have a worksheet for you to practice this stuff, or you can use the time to work on the con. And I can answer questions too. It looked like most of you guys did fairly well on your own, but I can, I can certainly help. Okay, so were there horizontal tangent lines on the con? I didn't look through all of it. It looked like there was. But it was like in there. Okay. This is a fairly common question on the AP test, though. And it's like huge for a lot of the stuff we're doing going forward. So one of the main ideas is let's find where, so I think it's probably obvious, but what's the slope of the tangent line's horizontal? Zero. So that's one of the main things we try to do with the graph is identify like where's the slope zero. So that's typically where something's happening. Either it turns around, or you can get a horizontal tangent line like in a case like that too, where it didn't necessarily turn around, but it leveled off for a second, and that's an important spot too. So we're looking for, if they ask you for a horizontal tangent line, they're looking for where the slope equals zero. So if the slope equals zero, what do we do algebraically? Like what's our way of finding slope? Yeah, I've been gone for a long time, I guess. So how would we find it? If I gave you an equation that said find when the slope equals zero, what would you do? I would plug in. If I plug in zero, that'll just give me a y value, like when x is zero. I'm not going to tell you. So we're going to sit here for a while. Yeah. Yes. How would we find the slope if I gave you an equation? Like y equals x squared minus 4x. What's the slope of that? How would I find the slope of that? What's the first step you did in like every single problem on con? I guess I'll get home. Yeah. That's like an algebra way to do it. But I'm saying like find the slope of the tangent line. What's the first step you would do? Yeah. Yes! Isn't that like what we've been doing for like a week and a half? I know I was gone, but jeez. So slope of the tangent line is just the same thing as the derivative, right? Slope of tangent line equals derivative. So if you want to know when there's a horizontal tangent line, take derivative. Because what does derivative tell you? Slope. So it equals 0. And then step 3 would be solved. It's probably obvious, but maybe not. Can I go to the next? Are we good? Are people still ready? So let's say I gave you y equals x to the third minus 6x squared. And I said find the equation of any, I'm going to put HTL just because I'm out of room, but so I mean what I'm saying is horizontal tangent lines. Keep this in mind, like when we get to the end too. What's the equation of a horizontal line? Y equals a number or x equals a number? Y equals a number. So I remember like y, if you flip over a y, doesn't it kind of look like an h? No. I'm not saying it's perfect, but you're telling me that those two things don't look similar. Okay, what if the y was like this?
If the y is curved like that, then it'll curve with the tip and it looks even more like
Difficult. I'm just trying to keep it way different. Alright, so find the equation of a horizontal tangent line. The key thing here is horizontal. What is the slope of a horizontal line? 0. How do we find slope from an equation? You take the derivative. So those two things we got to match up. I want the slope to be 0. I want to find the slope here and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to take the derivative here. So I'm bringing down the 3, reduce the power by 1, bringing down the 2 times 6, reduce the power by 1, and I'm setting it equal to 0. So what this says is the slope of tangent line is horizontal. I mean, that's what I'm setting up. They're saying find when the slope is horizontal. That's what this says. It just says in math. This is the slope of the tangent line. You know, equals means is, and 0 is what a horizontal slope is. So I got to solve that. I'm going to take a 3x out of both, which would leave me with x minus 4 equals 0. So solve both of those pieces. This will give me x equals 0. This will give me x equals 4. But are those equations of horizontal lines? Those are like vertical lines, actually, or just it's an x value. So we're not done. That's why I was saying, like, remember I asked you y equals a number. So that's where there's a horizontal tangent line. Like, that's the x value of it. But it's not the actual line. So you can get this a couple ways. I'm going to show you like the long way at first, but then I think you'll quickly see the shortcut. But this is not bad. Anytime you're asked for an equation, it's not a bad idea to just write down the point slope form. Let's start with the x equals 4, just because too many zeros might get confusing. If x equals 4, the 4 goes here. What goes here? 0, because that's the slope we're looking for, right? Because we want a horizontal line. And then how do I find out what goes here? I plug back into the original. So my job is to take 4 and plug it into the original. So 4 cubed minus 6 times 4 squared. So that is 64 minus 4 squared is 16 times 6 is 96. So that's negative 32. And so that's your equation, but isn't that also just y equals negative 32? So you can jump to that step if you feel like you want to, or you can work out, like, here's the process behind it. And then the same thing here, find the equation of horizontal tangent line. Well, the x value, the other x value was 0. What's the slope? 0. How do I find the y value? Plug it in the original. In that case, what do you get? 0. So your other horizontal tangent line would be at y equals 0. So those are your 2 answers in this case. What can I go through again? Where'd you get this from? Why'd you do this? What's a derivative? I'll put up here. Does the upside down y really look like an upside down h or the other? Okay. Can I move to the next slide? Or whatever. I'm just starting. I'm trying to use this more. I think I can go back and forth. Yeah. So if I skip something. All right. Let's say y equals 1/3 x to the third minus x squared minus 8x plus 4. Same thing. Find the equation of any horizontal tangent lines. I know what you're talking about. Upside down. There's a Greek letter that looks like an upside down. Yeah. You don't like H. That's the whole point. Okay. So, as soon as I see equation, I can start, I could do this look a little different order than I did last time. As soon as I see equation, I could go over here. Like, okay, I'm going to have to find the equation of horizontal tangent line. What's the slope going to be for my equation? Like, I'm just doing this a little bit different, I suppose. Same thing, but we'll do a different order. What's the slope? 0. What's the x value? Like, that's the point of all the derivatives. That's what we're doing, is find the x values. So if you start here, you're just going to get stuck at that spot, and that's what we're going to do this. So what's my first step with all that? Find the derivative. So you bring down 3 times 1/3, that'll give me x squared. That'll give me negative 2x. This will give me negative 8. And what do I want to set that equal to? 0y. So that's what horizontal slope is, 0. And so this one we got a factor, right? So this would be what multiplies to be negative 8 and adds up to be negative 2. So negative 4, positive 2. So this will give me x equals 4. This will give me x equals negative 2. So now I know that I've got 2 equations. And I know my x values are 4 and negative 2. Yeah.
Can you just plug those into the original equation and solve for y, and that's your equation? Those x values, without going through them.
You're saying, like, skip all this stuff? Yeah, so what, yeah, that's like the shortcut, I guess. So, how do I find this y value? I plug it into the original equation, right? Like, is this part really necessary? No, because what's 0 times all that crap going to end up being? 0. It's going to end up being 0. I'm just trying to show you, like, the general, like, here's what we're actually doing. If you want to skip that step, you're absolutely welcome to. So, yeah, plug in 4, and now we get into, like, the fractions. This might be where most of you guys have more trouble. So if I plug in 4, Let's do some fraction stuff here. What's 4 cubed? 64. So 1/3 of that, I can just go, okay, that's 64 over 3. 4 squared is 16, but I'm going to write that as something over 3. So 16 would be 48 over 3. Because 48 divided by 3 is 16. 8 times 4 is 32. So that is 96 over 3. And then 4 would be like 12 over 3. And this is a reason, like, this is probably one of the harder level things that ask you to do without a calculator, but I could see this being on here for sure. So 64 minus 48. No calculators. Just do the first step. 64 minus 48. 16. 16 minus 96, like you got $16, you do 96. Now you're $80 in debt, so now we're negative 80. Negative 80 plus 12. So it'll be like negative 68 over 3. And so like what Emma was saying was, could I just skip that? Like basically skip this stuff because it doesn't even mean anything. Yeah. You can. It's up to you. You could choose to or choose not to. Try plugging in -2. See if you can do the fraction part on your own. So -2 thirds, -8. This would be -8 thirds. -2 squared is +4. So it's going to be minus 12 thirds. This would be plus 16. So that's plus 48 thirds. Then plus 4 is plus 12 thirds. So -8 minus 12 means -20. -20 plus 48 is 28. Plus 12 will give you 40 over 3. So y equals 40 over 3 would be your answer here. How many had 40 over 3? Okay, cool. Questions on anything in there on the process? Like, why am I doing this? What do I do after this? The fraction part, anything I can help with on now? Yeah.
So are you multiplying by 3 on top of the bottom of the fractions?
Yeah, so like this, when I plugged in like the -8 times -2, for example, that's 16. So it's like 16 over 1. And I want the bottom to be a 3. So then I have to multiply the top by 3. Alright, let me give you one to do on your own without me rambling while you're doing it. This is, hold on. That's too fractiony. That's not what I want. start with the 0, and then the x minus whatever, and then the plus whatever. I'm going to skip that one on this. Step on this one and just jump to the y equals. So just plugging in the x value. Is it 0 for them? To what?
It's -1.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So 2/3?
Shouldn't it be 9/3 the last one?
Yep. So -4/3? I'll get it eventually. Okay. How many had y equals 0 and y equals -4/3? I cannot raise my hand. Yeah. What question?
I didn't get 0. I probably did fractions wrong.
So like talk through this part?
I had fractions for that. Like you have -9 and positive 18 and stuff.
Yeah, so you actually don't need them because -3 is -27. And then a third of that, you get like -27 over 3.
Oh.
And so you can keep going with fractions if you want, but that one comes out even, so you can skip the fractions. You know. Do you want me to keep going with the fractions, or is that good?
Will you do the fractions just so I can see?
So it'd be -27 over 3. This one is 18, so then I would make it 54 over 3. And this one's 9, so it'd be that's minus. It'd be -27 over 3 again. And then the -27 and -27 add up to the 54, so I just can't. Alright?
Yeah, I just got the one negative sign, so the 27's canceled.
Okay. Questions on anything else on here? Let me give you one more. This is a little tougher. This one is a little different. At the end, if you get to, you might be like, wait, this is weird. It's supposed to be weird. What do you do with the weird? Keep in mind what x to the -1 looks like. That's really 1 over x, right? X to the -1, do you guys remember what 1 over x looks like? Hyperbola. So, I'm not telling you the answer yet, but that's what the graph looks like. And we're looking for a horizontal tangent line. We're looking for a spot where the slope equals 0. So if I start going through my process, the derivative would be -1, x to the -2. I'm going to set that equal to 0 and solve. So I would probably get rid of the negative exponent first. So flip it to the bottom and go, okay, negative 1 over x squared equals 0. I think some of you can see the situation in this spot. Some of you might need one more step to kind of see it. But can I take negative 1, divide it by anything, and end up with 0? It's not going to work. You might say, okay, I'm going to multiply by both sides by x squared. Well, those would cancel. Now what's 0 times x squared? 0. And so negative 1 equals 0. This is never going to happen. This equation cannot be solved. So then there's no solution, which means there are no horizontal tangent lines. And just looking at the graph, is there any spot on this graph where you're going to have like a flat surfboard or whatever, you know? So it is possible that you get to some that just don't have a horizontal tangent line. Okay. Questions there? Okay. We got more to do. I know this is long, but what happens when I'm gone for 4 days. So normal lines. I know this is on the con. What's normal mean? In math, not like you're normal. Not all at once. Slow down here. Weren't there normal lines in the con? I swear there were. No? Oh, maybe not. Alright, well, we gotta do it anyways. But normal means perpendicular. Which means if I tell you the slope of the tangent line is like 4/3, what's the slope of the line that's perpendicular to that? Negative 3/4. You flip it over and you change the sign. So you gotta flip it both ways. I think about like 3/4 goes to 4/3 and then like turn it from positive to negative or negative to positive. So take slope of the tangent line and do negative reciprocal. So I'm going to go to the next page to start the example. All right, go ahead. Are people still writing there? Okay. So let's say I gave you y equals, let's just do y equals x squared. So we'll keep that part simple. At x equals 1. So if I just sketch a quick graph of that, you know, it might be like right there is x equals 1. This would be your tangent line. Which we're going to find. And then this, when we make a right angle, that would be your normal line. So this gets used a ton in physics when you get into force and gravity. And friction, I think. What does?
The physics part of it makes way much more sense in calculus than it ever did in physics.
Physics is way easier with calculus than without. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until they start teaching you physics. Assuming you know calculus, then they can make it like way harder than you lost it. So we're going to find both of these. I'm going to do the tangent line. So what goes there? 1. What goes there? 1. That, how am I getting that 1? I'm just plugging into the original equation, right? So that's also a 1. What goes there takes a little more work, right? So I'm going to take the derivative. Remember, you can't put like an equation there. So the slope of this parabola is 2 times the x value, no matter where we are on the graph. But I want to know specifically at the x value of 1. So my slope is 2, and this is the equation of the tangent line. Everything is the same in the equation of the normal line except for the slope. And what happens to the slope? Flip it over, change the sign, use the negative reciprocal deal. So this is still a 1. This is still a 1 for the exact same reason. All the 1, 1 just represents the point. We're at the same point. And then if the slope of the tangent line is 2, I didn't really sketch this great, but if the slope of the tangent line is 2, what's the slope of the normal line? Negative 1/2. And that's it. That's all you would do. What? Things are clicking.
A lot of physics just made a lot more
Really?
sense.
That's good. Like, what do you use it for in physics?
Well, we did a lot with like forces, and there was force normal, but he never told us what it was. He just told it existed, and that's what it is. It's right there. It's the normal line.
So that's why when I said what does normal mean, you all just stared at me.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Questions on this slide, I guess? Let's say y equals, I don't know, 2x squared plus 1. So I'm not going to make it that. Let's say at x equals, 5's a pretty big number. X equals 3. Find the tangent and the normal. Three comma what? Where are we at? 19, right? So we're pretty steep for the tangent line. Pretty flat for the normal line. I'll go ahead and find both of those. Does it make a difference to you guys whether I'm like writing on paper, sitting on my chair, or up here? Like, is anybody caring? I don't think so.
You end up blocking it, so it's a little bit more often. But if it comes to much more often, you can see it.
I like the color.
Yeah.
I like that I can erase stuff easier. But yeah, that back is the image.
It hasn't moved too much image.
I try to move out of the way. It's not too bad.
Like I said, if it becomes too big an issue, I'll just
But just like there, the fact the tangent line's all red, like I think that was helpful. Hopefully. Keep it classy. What time do I have till 28? Alright. I got one more to do. What's that? I forget that even when I'm here. It's like
It's that 1 hour
It's-
that's kind of weird.
been the same for 10 years, but I can't really like wrap my head around it. They throw an 8 o'clock in like just often enough to ruin my brain.
I know 3 times. I know once and 10:33. You know, lunch at 10:33. I know school starts.
See, I thought it was really easy.
It's technically 34, but they let us have the morning at 33 so we can start walking early. The bell rings at 34.
Alright, so the point is 3 comma 19 in either case. So that doesn't change. The only thing that's going to change is the slope. The slope comes from the equation. So my derivative would be 4x. My slope, remember the derivative tells you the slope of the tangent line. So 12 is what goes in for the tangent line, and then negative 1/12 is what would go there. If I asked you to, or the AP test asked you, you could distribute it out or whatever. I'm not worried about that right now. How many had these two for the tangent and the norm? Cool. Questions I can help on this one before I throw a trickier one at you. Okay. So let's say y equals x to the third. Find equation of normal and tangent lines at x equals 0. A little sketch to help you out. That is a good x to the third right there. Bless you. So our point, 0, 0. Probably shouldn't have shown you a graph. That's okay. Alright, so if I go do the slope, derivative is 3x squared. Plug in 0. Remember, this is the slope of the tangent line, so the derivative of the tangent line is 0. So I can put a 0 here. You normal line, in this case, I mean, you can see it. This is why maybe I shouldn't have given you the graph yet. Make you figure it out a little bit. But what kind of line is the tangent line? Don't say straight. Horizontal, right? Your slope is 0, so this is a horizontal line. What is perpendicular to a horizontal line is a vertical line, right? So as soon as it's vertical line, I can't really do my usual y equals blank, 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 because what's the equation of a vertical line? It's not y equals blank, blank, blank. Vertical line is just x equals a number. So the normal line in this case is going to be x equals something, and you just pick the x value that was given to you in the problem. So what's the x value here? Is x equals 0. So the normal line can end up being vertical, but then you just got to remember that's x equals something instead of y equals something. All right. Questions?